Brianna, a bright-eyed 14-year-old with an irrepressible curiosity, lived in the bustling city of Hazelwood. Ever since she was a toddler, she had been confined to a wheelchair due to a congenital spinal condition. Yet, if one only looked at her radiant smile, they might miss the fact that she navigated the world with metal and wheels beneath her. Whether it was her father's gentle teasing, her mother's loving scolding, or the chatter of neighborhood kids outside her window, she took it all in with wide-eyed wonder. The people around her were used to seeing her glide along sidewalks in her motorized chair, a blue backpack strapped to the back, and her beloved stuffed rabbit named Coco wedged snugly by her side. Brianna loved to explore. She found fascination in the local library, the corner shops, and above all, the sprawling city park that covered nearly 100 acres. She had visited that park countless times, yet the vastness still held unknown possibilities. Nothing thrilled her more than the idea of a hidden nook, a new glade, or an overlooked path waiting to be discovered. Her favorite tree in the park stood near the main playground, its mighty branches stretching far and wide, providing a canopy of shade. Despite park regulations to keep all visitors on paved pathways, Brianna often sidled up to the tree's trunk, just a little off the main route. There, she could watch the squirrels dart by and feel the rough bark under her fingertips. That was her special place, a spot only a few people bothered to visit. She listened to the wind hiss through the leaves, inhaled the earthy smell of grass, and let her mind roam free in daydreams. But at times, she also felt the frustration of being unable to reach parts of the park that remained out of her chair's reach. Hard-packed gravel paths became precarious, steep slopes posed immediate barriers, and curbs too high caused abrupt halts. Time and again, she had asked the park staff and city council for more accessible routes, but progress moved agonizingly slow. When weekend afternoons arrived, Brianna and her parents made a habit of strolling through the park together. On these days, her father would push her chair if she didn't feel like driving it herself, and her mother would point out new flowers or talk about the birds perched on overhead branches. The family had formed a shared affection for the park, regarding it as an extension of their home. Yet Brianna remained convinced that there was more to explore. Rumors floated among the other kids about a hidden trail that led to a secret garden. Whether these stories were true or merely the stuff of imagination, she couldn't say. But the snippets she overheard, a bench hidden by overgrown ivy, a small pond brimming with koi fish, were enough to spark her curiosity. She had to see it for herself. She silently vowed that she would find a way to get there, no matter the obstacles. One warm afternoon in early spring, Brianna set out on a quest. With her parents busy, she enlisted the help of her friend Sasha, a schoolmate known for her adventurous spirit and unwavering loyalty. Sasha was 5'0" but brimming with enthusiasm and a knack for spotting details others missed. Clad in sneakers and carrying 2 water bottles, she walked alongside Brianna's chair, equally determined to uncover the hidden trail. They ventured down a lesser-known side of the park, following the far-left path that was cracked with age and lined by low-hanging branches. To their right lay dense shrubs and brambles, thick enough to discourage any casual stroller. Yet something beyond those bushes caught Brianna's eye, a faint shimmer of color or movement she couldn't quite place. Sasha parted the branches and peered through. There was a narrow gap in the bushes where the greenery parted, as though forming a natural archway. Without hesitation, Sasha motioned for Brianna to follow. Once through the initial thicket, they found themselves on a quietly winding path. Tall hedges flanked them on both sides, forming a tunnel of shade in some spots and letting in shafts of golden sunlight in others. It wasn't entirely smooth, but with Sasha's guidance and Brianna's careful maneuvering of the chair, they managed the bumps and minor inclines. The air in this hidden corridor smelled slightly sweeter, perhaps from the wildflowers that lined the way. Brianna felt excitement flutter in her chest. She had discovered a part of the park she never knew existed, and there was a delicious thrill in exploring it firsthand. After nearly 10 minutes of cautious exploration, the hedges opened up into a small, secluded garden, complete with a wooden bench and an old stone fountain. When Brianna's eyes fell on the sight, they sparkled in amazement. The secret garden was an oasis of tranquil beauty, almost like stepping into a scene from a fairy tale. A ring of pastel roses bordered the clearing, and in the center stood the fountain, crackled with age, spouting a gentle stream of water. Brianna could hear the soft gurgle of the fountain as she brushed aside a few overgrown vines to roll closer. To her astonishment, half given behind the fountain was a koi pond dotted with lily pads and dancing gold and white fish. The garden radiated an aura of serene charm, the kind of place one would expect to find in a quiet English countryside, not in the midst of a busy urban park. Wow, whispered Sasha, her eyes glued to the fish glinting in the water. Brianna echoed her awe, feeling both overjoyed and subdued by the beauty unfolding before her. But challenges confronted Brianna even here. The garden's uneven pathways made navigating her wheelchair a chore, and there were steps leading up to a raised terrace on the far side of the pond. The terrace offered a vantage point to see the entire hidden haven from above, but it was inaccessible to her. As she gazed longingly at that lofty perch, she felt a mix of triumph at having arrived and disappointment that she couldn't enjoy it fully. She longed for others with disabilities or mobility challenges to be able to share in this wonder. Determined not to give up, she resolved then and there that she would not only visit this place regularly, but also fight to make it open and safe for everyone who might find solace in its quiet retreat. When she and Sasha returned home that evening, Brianna's mind brimmed with ideas on how to approach the park authorities again. A letter, a presentation, or anything that would help them see the need for better accessibility. At first, Brianna's progress was slow. She spoke with a few city officials, but they were mired in red tape and more concerned with budgets and existing regulations than an unmarked, unofficial garden trail. Nobody had allocated funds for expansions in that part of the park. Brianna prepared a short speech for the city council, describing her experience and insisting that the hidden garden be integrated into the official map so that it could qualify for refurbishments and accessibility measures. She spent hours drafting letters, complete with photos that Sasha had taken. While some council members offered encouragement, many felt that an extensive accessibility adjustment for a relatively unknown location wasn't the best use of resources. Developer proposals, playground maintenance, and other public works claimed the priority. But Brianna refused to be dismissed. Her father taught her that determination and patience could reshape even the most stubborn obstacles. In the midst of these bureaucratic hurdles, a chance encounter gave Brianna a new ally in her mission. Megan, a local journalist for the Hazelwood Daily Gazette, was strolling through the park when she spotted Brianna struggling to navigate a steep curb. Megan, who sported bright green glasses and carried a notepad wherever she went, struck up a conversation. When Brianna mentioned the hidden garden, Megan's ears perked up. She asked if she could see this secret place. With Sasha tagging along, they led her through the dense foliage. While Megan was enamored by the beauty of the koi pond and the fountain, she was equally troubled by how difficult it was to get Brianna's wheelchair around. She jotted notes, asked questions, and took pictures. That evening, Megan wrote an opinion piece titled, "Our Hidden Garden, a Place for Dreams, but Not for All?" The article chronicled Brianna's story, highlighting the urgent need for inclusive park design. When the piece ran, it caught the attention of city officials, local disability rights advocates, and even some philanthropic residents. Over the next month, public interest in the hidden garden exploded. Folks who had never ventured beyond the paved walkways wanted to see it for themselves, and soon crowds braved the hedges, discovering both the garden's tranquility and its navigational challenges. Social media lit up with photos of the fountain's calm waters, the koi shimmering under mid-afternoon sun, and the tangle of vines that gave the place a secretive air. Under the hashtag Hidden Garden for All, people shared their discovery, calling for improvements to remove the barriers. With this sudden surge of public engagement, the city council found it impossible to ignore the demands. Even local businesses expressed interest in sponsoring a project to make the garden more accessible, partly out of genuine civic pride and partly for the positive publicity. Amid the stirring momentum, Brianna felt a slow but steady blossoming of hope. She attended meetings at City Hall where proposals ranged from installing ramps to constructing an entirely new path that would accommodate wheelchairs, strollers, and walkers. Nishan, a retired architect with a disability himself, volunteered to draw up conceptual sketches. He presented designs featuring gently sloping pathways around the koi pond, ornamental railings for safety near the terrace, and a small platform that would allow visitors in wheelchairs to view the garden from a raised vantage point akin to the terrace steps. Though some council members balked at the idea of spending city funds on decorative railings and specialized ramps, the presence of public support, fueled by Megan's articles and the viral Hidden Garden for All post, made them reconsider. This wasn't simply about beautifying the park, it was about ensuring that every visitor felt equally welcomed. Still, there were bumps in the process. City budgets were far from endless, and establishing new infrastructure meant approving noise ordinances for construction, carefully planning the park's water system, and meeting safety codes for an area never officially recognized on the city map before. Brianna found herself, at times, overwhelmed by the bureaucracy. She leaned on her parents and Sasha for moral support, reminding herself that any real change required perseverance. During one particularly long council session, she recalled the moment she first rolled into the hidden garden, the hush of that enclosed space, the gentle ripple in the pond's waters. That memory reinvigorated her resolve. She wanted that sense of wonder to be available to any child or adult who ventured off the beaten track, not just those who could manage the uneven terrain. Eventually, after months of proposals, design tweaks, and negotiations, the council approved a plan to renovate the unreachable parts of the park. Local businesses came forward with donations, and the city set aside a portion of its discretionary fund. The plan included widening the narrow path leading to the garden, leveling the ground without stripping away its natural beauty, and building a wooden boardwalk that curved gracefully around the pond. There would be a ramp leading up to the terrace and two sturdy bridges that allowed wheelchairs and strollers to cross small gullies. In deference to the garden's fairy tale aura, the design team chose natural materials and soft lighting so that the enhancements would meld into the environment. It was a delicate balance between preserving the garden's hidden charm and making it available for everyone to enjoy. The city also intended to place a small sign by the park's main entrance, pointing to Garden Way, an accessible path. Construction began under the watchful eyes of Brianna and other local advocates. She visited the site nearly every weekend, trying to keep track of each wooden plank laid and every new layer of gravel smoothed. The construction crew welcomed her curiosity. She chatted with them about the best ways to ensure safety, pointing out spots where her chair struggled or curbs that felt too tall. Seeing ramps appear where there had been none before touched her deeply. With every hammer strike and every shovel of dirt, the park was growing more inclusive. Halfway through construction, Sasha found Brianna at the park entrance, pensive as she watched the team assemble a railing near the pond. Sasha gave her a playful nudge. "You pondering your conquest of this secret realm?" she teased. Brianna offered a small laugh, her face brightening. "A little bit, but mostly thinking about the future. About all the kids who'll get to roll in here or walk in without tripping, or parents who can push strollers and not worry about steps." Sasha nodded. In their entire friendship, she had seen how obstacles in Brianna's way never crushed her spirit, but instead fueled her determination. Sasha thought about how that spirit had sparked a city-wide effort and felt nothing but admiration. When the renovations were finally completed, the city organized a small ceremony to mark the official unveiling of the newly accessible garden. Neighborhood families gathered, along with city council members, journalists, and some of the citizens who had donated money and resources to the project. Handmade banners hung from the trees, and a few volunteers served lemonade and snacks. Brianna's heart pounded with excitement as she approached the expanded entrance. Her parents walked beside her, pride shining on their faces. Sasha stood nearby, giving her an encouraging thumbs up. The mayor, a middle-aged woman in a crisp navy suit, delivered a brief speech, praising Brianna's determination and the community's unity in making the dream a reality. To commemorate the moment, a bright ribbon stretched across the new pathway leading from the main route to the hidden garden. The mayor invited Brianna to do the honors. Holding a pair of oversized scissors, she cut the ribbon with a grin that reached her eyes. Applause erupted around her. The crowd then followed her along the wooden surfaced path, marveling at how easily the wheels of her chair navigated the once treacherous terrain. Layered shrubs were trimmed back just enough to form a natural arch, letting in dappled sunlight. A gentle slope replaced the old steps, leading everyone to the terrace overlooking the koi pond. Little kids squealed in delight, leaning over the safety rail to catch a glimpse of the fish. Parents guided their strollers without worrying about jagged obstacles. Some seniors with canes and walkers shed tears of relief, remarking that they never thought they'd be able to visit such a peaceful place. Brian at last could roll up to the vantage point with ease, seeing the garden from above, just as she had once dreamed. As the ceremony wrapped up, people scattered across the garden and the terrace, snapping pictures and placing small fish food pellets into the pond. Over by the fountain, Megan from the Daily Gazette caught up with Brianna to ask how she felt, scribbling a few notes into her notepad for a follow-up piece. "It's wonderful," Brianna said. "It's not just about me, though. It's about the city saying, yes, we see you, we hear you. This place might be hidden, but now it's hidden in plain sight for everyone." Her words struck a chord. Megan smiled, promising to highlight that theme in her new article. Just beyond them stood Nishan, the architect, nodding in approval as he surveyed the new structures. Everyone appeared to be brimming with a sense of collective accomplishment. The transformation didn't stop there. Inspired by the garden's story of renewal and inclusivity, the city council began looking into other parts of Hazelwood's park system. Wooden ramps were added where curbs had been too high, and narrow bridge paths were widened to accommodate multiple users. The local historical society reached out to Nishan, discussing ways to retrofit some of the city's older landmarks without sacrificing heritage. Accessibility had entered the public consciousness, and it was largely thanks to the determined teen who refused to believe that a beautiful place needed to remain out of reach. In the weeks following the official opening, Brianna continued to visit the garden regularly. Some days she went alone, enjoying quiet moments by the pond as she watched the fish swim idly beneath lily pads. Other times, she brought friends or members of her church group. Every visit felt like a fresh experience, partly because the gentle modifications allowed her to explore it fully, and partly because so many new visitors had arrived to share its serenity. One sunny afternoon, she brought along a neighbor's elderly aunt who relied on a walker. The woman had spent the last decade hesitating to venture beyond the paved circle near the playground, convinced her legs couldn't handle anything more rugged. But now, side by side with Brianna's chair, she made it comfortably all the way to the fountain. Her eyes widened at the sight. "If I'd known this was here, I would have come long ago," she murmured. Brianna gently squeezed her hand. It's never too late to discover something new. On another occasion, Brianna and Sasha organized a small poetry reading in the garden for their classmates. Students from their school recited poems they wrote about nature, hope, and belonging. Teachers, parents, and curious onlookers joined in, soaking up the garden's ambiance. One poem, composed by a classmate who often struggled to speak confidently in front of others, ended with the line, "Here is where I can breathe." The boy's voice trembled slightly, but the supportive applause that followed felt profound. These new uses of the garden not only reflected the deeper meaning of the city's commitment to access, but also Brianna's own personal growth. She had once been an onlooker to the world, limited by unyielding pathways and abrupt dead ends. Now, seeing the transformation she had sparked, she realized that her potential to make a difference was just as limitless as anyone else's. While the hidden garden had begun as an enchanting rumor, it blossomed into a vibrant space that symbolized unity, compassion, and the power of a dream. People from all walks of life made the effort to visit, whether drawn by the natural beauty or by stories of how one determined teenager injected hope into a bureaucratic process. The koi fish, growing accustomed to regular visits, began to swarm the edge of the pond whenever a human figure approached, expecting small bits of food. The quiet hush of the fountain, combined with the soft hush of leaves and the breeze, lent an air of serenity that left an imprint on everyone who lingered there. It served as a testament. What once seemed inaccessible had been opened through vision, determination, and the collaborative spirit of an entire community. One evening, just a few months after the official opening, Brianna sat alone on the terrace, watching the sky transition from a soft pink to a deepening orange. The final rays of sunlight caught the shimmering water of the fountain, casting faint rainbows into the air. She thought of all that had changed since she first discovered this place with Sasha. Back then, she had felt excitement, but also a sense of limitation. Now, those limitations had cracked open, revealing a vast horizon of possibilities. She felt the presence of everyone who had supported her, her parents, Sasha, Megan, Nishan, and countless others, and a wave of gratitude washed over her. She placed a hand on the edge of the wooden railing, feeling its smooth surface, and whispered a silent promise that she would continue to champion accessibility wherever else it was desperately needed. As night descended and the crickets began their chorus, Brianna turned her wheelchair around, gently weaving her way down the ramp toward the main path. Once on the main walkway, she paused, glancing back at the lanterns being lit around the garden's perimeter. The softly illuminated arches and the subtle glow from the stone fountain gave the space a dreamlike aura. It was no longer a private dream hidden behind brambles. It was a shared dream, one that anyone was welcome to join. A tender smile crossed her lips. She began to move forward, the hum of her wheelchair accompanying the chirps of nightlife. Despite the darkening sky, an inner glow of contentment lit her way. Here in Hazelwood, she had left her mark, and in doing so, she had guided countless others to do the same. The path ahead stretched wide and open, leading to a future she and her city had only just begun to imagine.